Is that your foot off the bed?
I'm Lyurel.
And I'm Janelle, and you're listening to the Foot Off the Bed podcast. What goes on?
So we are trying something new with
Clearly,
this uh, recording virtually. Hopefully it works out well.
even though you're like pixelated and looking like boxes right now.
Honestly, it's better than what I look like right now.
You look fine.
But yeah, so pretty much work's been kicking my butt. Then I gotta go back in tonight, so that's gonna be fun.
Mm-mm.
Part of the no sleep club. I've been off for 3 days, and I can tell you I probably slept for a total of maybe 10 or 15 hours.
Jesus,
Maybe. So,
definitely
yeah.
some magnesium or some chamomile. Goddamn.
Need somebody to knock me out physically.
I'm kind of having the same, not like sleep issues because I told you like the magnesium was helping me, but I don't know what the fuck. Like this school is like they want hours out of your day, man. I'm like, why am I getting home at 7:30 and I came in at 7:30?
Oh,
Like,
no.
yeah, like that.
Dude.
Y'all took too much of my day, but I'm not gonna complain just yet because I don't know how it is yet. Maybe I'll like it once training is over. But and I'm enjoying the coworkers and the people. The people are cool. But like as far as going there super early and then leaving super late, that's not the move. That's not the move. I'm like literally like, no, I'm gonna hate this. But hopefully it just I'm able to manage my time well enough where I don't have to be staying that late.
Yeah.
I can just
But it's
no,
good though that you like your coworkers.
yeah, they're mad cool. Oh my god, it just rips my lap. Oh my gosh. I ripped
Uh
it.
oh.
I ripped it.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't mean to, but there was lit in there and I was trying to get it out. Fuck it.
Is that a thing that happens? I feel like I do that all the time. Or just the hair just comes out at some point. But
Yeah.
it's not a lot. It's like a little curly Q.
Yeah, I don't I think the which one was it? It's because like in the middle, it's like breaking apart. I can't even find it now. It's crazy. Is it this one? Oh, this one. With one tug, this shit will be out. One tug. It's a wrap if
Gracious.
somebody pulls it. I'm gonna just cut it though because it's clearly about to like come off. It's unhealthy. But yeah. So we're recording from an entirely new place, and it's kind of weird because like I'm used to like looking right at you in the studio, but now I'm like looking at you through a screen, and I'm like, like now I feel like
Yeah.
I'm doing Zoom class all over again, and I'm like, I don't, I'm triggered.
It's weird. I mean, it's convenient, but it is something to get adjusted to.
Hell yeah! But at least that means that we can have guests like without having to pay or whatever. So that's good. Um. Oh well, yeah. I just came back from vacation. That's why we were out for so long, plus starting new jobs and stuff. So, and I once I came back from vacation, I already knew. I was like, nah, I cannot. I can't record tomorrow. Like, it's just not happening. Not happening. I
I
already.
think I want to go on a vacation, and by that I mean like me just in my room here sleeping for at least 2 days in a row.
I feel bad because I'm like, even after my vacation, I was tired for like 3 days after. Like, I just felt like
Mhm.
I did not get sufficient sleep. during that vacation because I kept having to wake up for trainings and stuff. I am never ever scheduling another vacation. Well, it wasn't really my fault because they told me last minute. But if I have anything to do with it, I'm gonna just be like, I can't come. Sorry, I'm not gonna be here. Sorry, because doing that was too much. And honestly, I really didn't even need to be there for those meetings. I really didn't.
Ugh, those are the worst.
Yeah, I was like, I could have literally just watched these videos and come into full like training in person and would have gotten the same information because they literally regurgitated the same information over again in person. I was like, this that was a waste of my time. That was like
I
literally my
I
time.
hate that. I hate that.
They got us literally. They gave us a book too by this guy. First of all, they're kind of cultish, but I'm not gonna get into it because I don't want to like say where my job is and have the issue of like somebody finding me so or hearing me talk about it. But all I'm gonna say is they had us read this book that's supposed to give advice on like the job. And when I tell you, I just felt like it was giving me cult vibes. Like not the book, just we had a meeting and they kept saying Allah and then his name. And I was like, they were like, we have a saying here, Allah so and so. And I was just like, that's not funny. That's really fucking weird. That's weird. You're weird. Stop being weird. And then like the book is just like going over and over saying the same stuff from the videos. So I'm like, y'all are giving me like pyramid scheme vibes, even though I know it's not a pyramid scheme, but it's just like that's what pyramid schemes do. They like to like give you motivation every 2 seconds and are like,
Give you false hope, and then I don't know. I don't like that.
yeah, I'm like, this isn't giving me good vibes. Then aside from like there are a few people that I'm kind of like side eyeing. So I'm just like, I'm gonna keep an eye on them. But yeah. So far I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And then another thing I noticed was that everybody there is young. And I was like, that raises a lot of red flags for two things. That means there's not a lot of people there who have kids because they're probably getting a lot of their time being taken away.
Oh yeah.
And then the other thing of it is like people they probably leave so fast that they only hire young people because young people are like we quit, but we're quick to go into a job and then be like, yeah, no, I don't like this, I'm leaving. So they probably just have a whole bunch of young people fresh out of college ready to like jump into this job and they realize the culture and like how it actually is and it's debilitating on your mental health and then they leave.
That's me. That's me right now.
Yeah, if that happens to me, I will be so out. I will make sure I'm applying to jobs left and right. Like, sorry,
Right.
I gotta go.
Oh my gosh, it's too much. But the good thing is that I have been applying to other jobs to try and like be somewhere else, and I've been getting a response from this one place that's like it's basically a daycare. It's like early learning or whatever. It's called the learning experience. So it's pretty much a daycare for like infants and like infants to like 6 year olds, I think. So I was like, that would be such a nice change of pace because I've been I spent the last 3 years dealing with patients and now I'm dealing with boxes. So
Yeah,
something a little bit more tame. Nah, I can't say that because babies are not tame at all.
they're not. But at least it's like you know what you're getting yourself into, and it's kind of like you know that the kids will be a little crazy, but there's also like moments where you'll be like, "This is hilarious."
Yeah. And I can actually sit down.
Yeah, and it also just depends on the school, like or the daycare rather. They might just be like a little bit more chill than like at least some places might be chill. Other places might be very strict. Other places, some places might be like no, we gotta take up all your time. Like, you gotta stay here till 5, and other places are like, nah, you just stay till 2, you're fine.
Right. I just know that it's a struggle.
Yeah. New
It's
jobs in general are a struggle. That whole, like, adjustment period be like, what the fuck?
yeah.
Especially if it's taxing, like, moving stuff.
Oh my god, there's never an adjustment period and I hate that. Like I've worked longer hours for at the hospital and at UPS and nothing was more tax. Actually, I can't say that because apparently my experience with working at UPS was so like traumatic that I kind of like repressed it
Oh my god.
because I'm slowly remembering like my entire body just hurting and barely being able to go up and down stairs to like get things done.
Oh god.
And I was just like, this kind of fits because that's kind of how I feel coming home now. So,
Jesus.
I mean, it is getting a little easier um to the point where I'm not like in pain all day. So, I guess that's something.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's a hard job in the sense that like it's difficult to do. It's just hard to physically, you know, stand there and do the same movement for 10 hours.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because I can imagine. I'm gonna just say I can imagine.
And it's crazy because, like, they have so many good benefits and everything, but honestly, I really don't see myself being there that long, though, to be able to take advantage of those things.
Just like my job, I'm like, I cannot see myself staying here too long because I can already tell what y'all about. I can already tell, and it's not having anything to do with them. It's just the culture that they built around, like the work culture, is
Yeah,
not healthy or conducive to like anybody wanting to maintain proper mental health, like at all.
no,
So go get new jobs, kids.
I hate it because I'm sitting here like, oh my god, it was a mistake to leave the hospital, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm like, if I can get used to it, I won't feel that way. And I can listen to music while I'm working, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
And most of the people are nice, but again, like the what is it, the retention rate? I'm seeing new people show up, and I've only been there. This will be my fourth week, I think. So almost a month I've been there, and I'm seeing new managers show up and leave and show up and leave.
Oh,
So
what
I'm
the
like,
fuck?
yeah,
Well, damn.
yeah.
That's weird. I'd be like, just like one guy in my job, he just found out he got transferred last Tuesday and now has to adjust to building, like doing all of the work. Like he has to catch up. He basically has to catch up before the official start date. Just like,
Wait, he didn't ask for that transfer?
nope.
Ooh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not good.
They just transfer you without even saying,
Oh hell no.
yep. So that's fun. In other news, I'm gonna play a song because I kept singing it.
I got a little story to tell you. Have you ever met a girl that you tried to date, but a year to make love, she wanted you to wait? Let me tell you a story of my situation. I was talking to this girl from the U.S. nation. The way that I met her was on tour at a concert. She had long hair and a short miniskirt. I just got on stage, dripping pouring with sweat. I was walking through the crowd, and guess who I met? I whispered in her ear, come to the picture booth so I can ask you some questions to see if you're 100 proof. I asked her her name, she said blah blah blah. She had 9, 10 pants and a very big bra. I got her from since she was confused. I started throwing bitch, she started throwing back mid-range, but when I sprung the question, she acted kind of strange. Then when I asked, do you have a man, she tried to protect. She said, no, I don't. I only have a friend. Come on, I'm not even going for it. It's my boss saying, you got what you need. But you say he's just a friend. And you say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you got what I need. You say he's just a friend.
Yeah. So R.I.P. to Biz Markie. That shit broke my heart. He's a great beatboxer. Once I finally actually heard it, like years ago, I was like, "Yo, what? He can beatbox like this?" I just knew him as like being funny and appearing on like different TV shows and movies, like in I think Men in Black. He had like a small role of an alien or something, and like I think he was like a beatboxing alien or something.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, like he was funny. And he was only 57, so I'm just
He's
like,
very young, yeah.
yeah. But he was also like super sick for a while, and it was just like they were like Fat Joe was checking up on him every 2 seconds with his wife, like, hey, is he good? Like, how's he doing? And she was eventually just saying like not too well, and yeah, he just passed away.
Mm.
Yeah, so sad to see him go. I'm pretty sure the hip hop community is sad to see him go. But I'm trying to remember him nicely. And not like, oh, when he was sick and stuff. Cause I remember when they first said he was hospitalized, but I was like, damn, that was mad long ago. Like, it was, I know it was more than a year that he was been hospitalized. Yeah. So, R.I.P.
Word.
We're also having a few new updates. So, well, not a few, just one. I don't know why I said a few. But I kind of realized like we weren't letting you guys know exactly what movie we were watching before we like started talking about it. And that doesn't really give you the option of like going to watch the movie before we talk about it, and because then we're giving spoilers.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start posting to like Instagram, Facebook, our website, what movie we'll be discussing before we discuss it, so you'll know what to watch. Or you can just skip ahead if you want to listen to the true crime and paranormal stuff and you don't want to hear us talk about the movie. Either way, this is like a movie club, so I don't know why you're here if you don't want to talk about movies. But like, just given the option of skipping it or skipping it so you can watch the movie later, or just skipping it just because you want to hear the true crime or paranormal part. But yeah, the movie that we watched was The Last Exorcism, which I kept getting confused with all of the other exorcisms. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. What was the other one I watched? The Exorcism of Holly something.
Molly Hartley.
Molly Hartley. I'm like, which one is this? And then I finally found it on like HBO Max, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the one. So I was like, I hope I watched the right one, and I had to confirm with you. Then you didn't remember. I was just like, what?
Because I was like, I know it's an exorcism. I just didn't know which one. And it's like, oh, it's the last one. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna say it now. Skip ahead right now at 19 minutes and 29 seconds if you do not want to hear us talk about the movie. Okay? So The Last Exorcism came out in 2010, and it's another found footage supernatural horror. I'm starting to realize like we literally have a fetish for found footage. Because like, why do we keep watching these?
Some of them are done really well, and others are not.
Yeah,
But like, there was a huge surge in like found footage films after like movies like the Blair Witch uh, Project and like um,
definitely Paranormal Activity.
Paranormal Activity, especially, yeah, and like Grave Encounters and whatever.
Yeah.
It's like from like 2007 to like 2015, 16. So many found footage horror movies just
Literally.
came out of the woodwork.
So, after years of performing exorcisms, an evangelical, I was about to say it so wrong, minister named Cotton Marcus. First of all, I was like, this name kind of racist, but all right.
Yeah, I thought he. So when I first watched the movie, I was like half asleep. So I thought he was like that was like a play name. I thought he was trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But then they kept saying it, and I was like, "Oh, this really this man's name."
Yeah, like, this is really your name. Why is this your name? Like, why did somebody name you Cotton? Like, Cotton
And you're from Baton Rouge.
is giving me slave owner.
The man was born on a plantation.
But Cotton Marcus decides to participate in a documentary chronicling his last exorcism while exposing his fraudulence. Cotton Marcus was raised in the church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, pretty much as a con artist. His dad sort of like groomed him as a child preacher, and he was like preaching to other kids and trying to get them to like come to the church and get their parents to come to the church so that the church could get more money.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got like he became like a prodigy and everything because he was a child preacher and preaching in the church and everything, and people were so amazed by him and started gathering more people in the church. And then when he got older, he started using magic tricks to preach in church. Which is like, honestly, that's the only way you'd probably get me to like pay attention to a church sermon. Unless they were like really speaking to something that I was dealing with, I'd be like, preach. But like, I would be highly entertained if you was using magic tricks while you were preaching. I'm not gonna front. Like, I just word. Oh wow, that's crazy. How did you do that?
I'd be like, oh my.
But pretty much everything was like a big show to him. So at one point he was faithful like to his faith, but lost his faith after the birth of his son because I forgot what he specifically said, but part of it was like he was worried about a lot. And I think his son had gotten sick at one point, and they were in, like the first thing he did was like thank the doctor and not God. So he was that like made a big question and said like, whoa, like I just thanked a person of science over God, even though I was praying to God this whole time to heal my son. Which is, I feel like that's not a big deal because it's like, I mean, God could have blessed the doctor to heal your son. So if you want to go with that logic, so I don't see the big deal. But okay, if you want to have a whole conniption about it,
He's so extra. That's all it is.
it really, I was like, you're being extra, but okay. But you know, preaching's the only thing he knows, so he's stuck with like his con artist ways, pretty much. It was just like, fuck this, like he doesn't believe in demons, but he uses exorcisms sort of like a sugar pill. Like, even though he has good intentions, he swindles people to think like, all right, I'm exorcising a demon out of you, but really it's like probably something else. But it makes them feel good. It makes them like come with new faith with God. So he's like, I'm doing it to make you feel better. But at the same time, it's like, you're kind of fucked up for that. But
Cause it's like these people are paying him though.
yeah,
It's
and I'm
not
like,
like it's not like oh he's doing it for free. Yeah, he's literally like some of these people is probably like their last dollar, and he's taking it from them and feeding them tricks.
yeah. So he was out here faking exorcisms, and usually he believes there's always some logical explanation behind the possessee's behavior. So he allows them to like feel like they overcame the demon or whatever, but really he feels like he's helping them overcome their ailment or their mental illness or whatever it's going, nervous breakdown, whatever's going on with them. All while literally collecting a hefty check, like we just said. um,
Hefty.
and then using it to pay for his son's hearing aid, because those are expensive. So
They sure are. Golly.
yeah, I didn't realize until like I was like, let me just look it up to see. Oh shit! All right, damn, I can't even hear out here.
Working in the hospital, everybody who had a hearing aid, their spouse or whatever was like, "You got your hearing aids, right?" And they have them in like this little special case.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like they put like notes and stuff like, oh, make sure you don't lose this, make sure so and so takes this out before they go to sleep, all of that jazz. And at first I was like, well, goodness, why do we care so much? And then now I'm like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, those things are a little hefty penny.
And I hate that. Like, are we serious?
They're dead serious. You know they don't, you gotta charge to drink fucking water. Some shit we need. Like
It's
so
crazy out here.
I'm surprised at hearing. Damn, I can't even hear out here. You gotta charge me for that too. And glasses. Motherfucker, it's not my fault I can't see. I was born like charge me to see. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
But
And glasses are not cheap either.
they're not. My glasses were like $150 after insurance.
Damn.
I was like, why are glasses $150? That makes no sense. None. There should be no, unless I'm buying some crazy brand name. Even that's still stupid. But
That's what I was gonna say. Like, for God forbid, if you wanted nicer looking glasses or you wanted a name brand or something.
nope, that should $300 now.
Yup.
Like Jesus. But what made him even more jaded after a while was a case he saw about an autistic boy who was strangled to death during an exorcism. And ever since then, he's wanted to expose himself and the Vatican for like being frauds. He's just like, I feel bad about this, fuck whatever I've been doing before. I'll find some other way to pay for my son's hearing aid. I'm just gonna like, this is my last check, and I'm gonna just expose myself and the Vatican for the frauds that they are. So for everyone innocent, it's kind of a win, except for like in his last case, which is the movie. So after receiving a letter from a farmer named Lewis in Ivanwood asking for help in driving out the devil, he meets the farmer's adopted daughter, Nell, who has been apparently killing their livestock. Marcus arrives with his crew, Iris and Daniel, who are doing the documentary on Marcus. Marcus starts investigating, trying to figure out what is really going on with the family. And when he says really going on, obviously he's like, ain't no demon in this girl. She just something going on. Something's getting crazy. And he's suspecting that Caleb, Nell's brother, is really the culprit behind killing the livestock. Which I mean is not too far off because what did he do? He threw it like he hit their window or something?
Yeah, like as soon as they got there, he was like, "Oh, so in order to find the farm, you want to drive back the way you came, and you're gonna get to the highway, and then you're gonna go back to wherever you came from." And then he starts throwing like rocks and like mud and stuff at their car.
Yeah, I'm like, this boy is psycho. Okay. So it's not too far off that they thought he was like a serial killer in the making. So
This is like right up. It just reminded me of when we went to the Pine Barrens, and I was like, it's the same exact situation.
mhm. Mhm. That lady driving people out with guns and shotguns and stuff
See, I'm not about that life.
at all. Unless I'm packing two. Because you ain't about to threaten me with a gun and I don't have one. But also I know it was probably because they were like trying to go off of like demon possession, she's weird. Well, she's being weird because she's possessed, but they're not showing it yet. But Nell was presented as so innocent. It was like almost like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Like,
But when they, to me, like that made sense because like the father really like isolated them after their mom passed. So like it kind of makes, well, to me it kind of makes sense that she was like that. They live by nothing.
yeah. Even
Nothing.
I was like, yeah. So Marcus, when he's investigating, like we said, he finds out that the mother died. Nell's brother Caleb started hating God because of that, and Lewis pulled both the kids out of Sunday school. Or was it regular school too? Was it just Sunday school or was it school school?
It was Sunday school.
Okay. Yeah, he pulled them out because he didn't like that the pastor was like letting them listen to other music besides Christian music and like teaching them other stuff outside of like the Bible, which
Yeah.
loony shit. But anyways, he also finds out that Lewis is a bit of a drinker after the mom died. So it's like all these things are adding up in Marcus's head. Like, sounds like this is having a mental breakdown and not demon possession. But of course, he's gonna make the family think like, okay, yeah, demon possession. Woo. Let's try to get it out of you. So he tells Lewis that Nell is possessed by saying she's possessed. Yeah, he confirms that she's possessed by saying she's possessed by a powerful demon named Abalon. Which,
Hmm.
I don't know why, but that sounds fake. But it gets
I hate it. I hate that name. It's
yeah. I'm
like
like Abalon. What the hell? It doesn't even sound real. But he starts getting the tricks going. Like he's like, "Oh, you feel that behind your neck? Like, yes, that's signs of a demon possession." Like, what? Yeah, that dip right here, the dip right here, yeah. Like if you didn't have that before, it's really deep. That's demon
and
possession.
of course nobody's like paying attention because who would think of that? Like who
Right.
would think to, oh, let me check my neck every day? Like no.
Then like he said, okay, let's get a container of water and put your feet in it. And you just see him throw like this little tablet that gets the water boiling all of a sudden. First of all, I feel like if I was the dad, I would have been looking in the water to see if something was fizzing down there. Because I imagine that unless it was clear, what could have like made the water like start bubbling like that?
Right.
You can't like actually see.
I would have fell for it because I fell for it watching the movie. I was like, she really is
You
possessed.
see him throw it in.
No, I tell you, I was like half asleep.
That man dug in his pocket in like the most non-slick way, and that's why the son saw it because the son was watching everything. Caleb was
Mhm.
like, "Nigga, I saw you throw that shit in there." Oh no, I said the N word. We're gonna block that out. Um, but yeah, so
Mm-mm-mm.
eventually tells Lewis that the only way to save Nell is death, unless they perform an exorcism. So of course now they're hooked. They're like, oh my god, yeah, we got to do this exorcism or she's gonna die. Like the only other way is death. We can't let her die. So exorcism. So he persuades the family with his tricks, smoking, crucifix, bed shaking, all of that, and they believe that he's driven the demon out and leave, believing he has cured her of a mental state that was misdiagnosed as possession. But then that night, Nell appears in Marcus's motel room looking sick and possessed as hell. That part had me creeped out. I
It
was
was crazy because like she had no way of getting to y'all
right. So I'm
on
like,
her own.
I think she's just mentally ill at this point. No, how did she know where your motel room was? Tell me that. Not even
Your
where the
exact room.
motel was. Like she could have, she could have guessed at knowing where the motel was, like which motel, because it's nearby or something. But she wouldn't have known where your room is. They're not at the desk gonna tell you, a random stranger, where your room is. They're not gonna do that. They're gonna be like,
Yeah.
call them. So how did she know? So then they're obviously confused, the crew and Marcus. So they take Nell to the hospital for tests and call Lewis. But the hospital tells them that Nell is in like perfect physical condition. She's fine, like nothing was wrong. And Nell is just like, huh? What? Where am I? I don't remember being here. And Lewis is also confused because he's like, how did you get there? What the hell? So he's mad now because he's like, you didn't cure my daughter. They're talking about taking her to a mental institution now, and that's not Christian like. That's the devil. Science is the devil. Blah blah blah. Crazy babble talk. And Lewis isn't buying it like basically. And Marcus is like, all right, fuck it. We're just going to try to get some outside help. So he goes to he goes to Lewis's former pastor, Joseph Manley. to ask him to convince Lewis to take her to the mental hospital and see Joseph's friend, who was a psychiatrist. But Joseph is like, man, I didn't see that man in like 3 years when he pulled his kids out of here. And he almost looked like he wanted to fight me. Like, it got tense. So I don't know about that, cuz. And Marcus was like, all right, what if I convince him to talk to you? Would you then come over? And he was like, yeah, if you do that, we're good. Like, but otherwise, like, what you want me to do? I can't. He doesn't want me around his kids. He doesn't like me.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, he's like, all right, I'm gonna go back to Lewis, convince him to have you over here, and we'll be good. So in the morning, they get there, they get back to the house, and they see Lewis has Nell chained up to the bed after she cuts her brother Caleb's face with a knife. Like, his face is gushing blood. Lewis and Nell are outside having, well, Lewis is really having a screaming match. And Nell's just like, I didn't do anything. I don't know. I didn't do anything. And they're like, what the hell is going on? So to see her chained up upstairs after that was like, whoa, this is like crazy. They're looking at Caleb's face. So Marcus, like, well, they take her out of the chains eventually, but before that, Marcus is like, take Caleb to the hospital. He convinces him to go. And the only reason why he convinces him to go is because Caleb hands him a note saying, like, don't leave him with her. I'm like, ooh, red flag, red flag.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, they're like, okay, we can't really trust Lewis like that. Something crazy is going on. He's got this girl chained to her fucking bed. Caleb's face is slashed, and he's blaming it on her. Everything is sus. So now they're like, yeah, something's going on. We need to stay. So after they free her from her restraints, they're like, okay, we're just gonna chill here or whatever. But she starts acting strange. They find her trying to drown a doll, making baby sounds, which sounded like way too convincing.
I hated that.
Yeah,
I hated it so
I'm
much.
so fucking disturbed. I'm so disturbed.
And no one questioned it. They were just like, "Oh, okay, baby sounds."
They thought she was sleepwalking. And when they
just,
were recording it, they heard her speaking in Latin while the baby sounds were happening. How could she speak in Latin and also make baby sounds? They did not connect the two.
they were too focused on the dad not being able to speak Latin, which makes sense, but like, bruh.
It's like, do people in horror movies not watch horror movies? Because I feel like that's something where I would be like, nah, bro, she possessed. Because how did she do that? How did she do that?
Right.
They also find strange drawings in her room. And the drawings were like of them. I think it was Iris was dismembered. Daniel's head was cut off, and Marcus was, I think, burned alive or something like that.
Yeah. It showed like him holding a crucifix up to a large flame.
Oh, okay, right.
And then like him perishing in the flame.
And they also found a drawing of like a bloodied cat, like just red splotches all over. So they were like, this is weird. Something's going on. They go downstairs. They're like, they said, I don't forgot what happened, but they eventually heard a voicemail from a doctor saying that Nell was pregnant. And when they hear that, they're like, oh my fucking God. So Iris immediately started accusing
Suddenly the one other suddenly the camera crew have like a personality.
yeah, because before we weren't seeing them. This whole time, we're not even seeing the camera crew. Now we're seeing the camera crew. I mean, we saw them in the motel room, but this is the most we've seen them, like, and the most that they've spoken. So now they're like, nah, something's going on. This is crazy. We need to call the police. Blah, blah, blah. Marcus is like, you can't just because Iris accuses Lewis of incest, like raping his daughter, basically. And Marcus was like, you can't just go around accusing him of incest. Like, we don't know. Like, we have to like find out. And she's just like getting upset at this point. So Daniel's like, listen, let's all just go to bed because tensions are running high. Nell is like going crazy. We just need to like rest for a while and think about it when we wake up. So then,
See, what bothered me about Daniel was that he said something smart and then he said something dumb at the end. The smart thing was like after they found like the pictures of them basically being killed or whatever, he was like, "Oh, I don't feel comfortable being here knowing that there's this girl here drawing these things about us. Like this makes me feel weird, like we shouldn't be here." And I was like, Daniel has some sense. Good. And then we get to the part you were just talking about, and he's like, "Oh, maybe we should just take a nap in the house that I said I didn't want to be in
well,
because this."
I had actually skipped a part because I forgot that while they were sleeping, Nell goes in, like, steals Daniel's camera, goes into the barn, kills the cat with the camera by, like, brutally smashing it. And then when they wake up, like, because she's, like, standing over Marcus, like, looking like she's trying to kill him, and Iris sees her. So, like, they put her into her room in bed or whatever. And that's when they see the paintings of them. And that's when
Okay.
Daniel is like, I'm uncomfortable. But then a little later, they also hear her speaking to a disembodied voice in her room. And like at this point, she's taunting Daniel now because she heard. I feel like she heard him say, "I'm scared of her."
Or you
So
can like sense it too.
yeah, so now she's like literally like staring at him, smiling after they just heard. Like they were like, "I swear, I just heard two voices in that room," and she's like now targeting the cameraman because he's so scared of her. So obvious demon possession right there. Like, why are you taunting me? But so eventually Lewis returns to the house. It's nighttime now. Marcus confronts him and tells him about Nell's pregnancy. But Lewis is so fucking like lost in the sauce about the demon possession at this point. He's like, "Oh my god, you were right, Abalam." Because earlier in the movie, Marcus was like, Abalam takes virgins' innocence or whatever and impregnates them with a demon child. Lewis believed it, obviously. So now thinking because Nell is pregnant, he's like, "Oh my god, you're right. Abalam defiled my daughter. Like, we gotta do something. We have to." He was like, "I need you to exercise her again." Marcus was like, no, you need mental help because what the hell are you talking about?"
Marcus was like, "Listen, it's not always the demons."
Right. I get it, yes, but it's like you put yourself in this position by convincing him that this story was real. So it's your fault. And you trying to now tell him, "Oh no, needs to go to a mental hospital." That's not gonna rock because now all of the stuff is lining up for him. How is she pregnant? What the fuck? Offended at Marcus's insistence that a demon is not involved, Lewis demands that the crew leave and alludes to intending to kill Nell to save her. So the crew tries to escape with Nell, but then Nell is like acting crazy now. She's like fully possessed, like attacking Marcus with a knife, slashing his hand, staring at the cameraman for mad long, popping up outside, walking. At one point, she was like this, like trying to mock Christ, basically, which is another demon trait to do.
Yup. Marcus is crazy for that one because he really got his whole hand got slashed, and he was like, "It's not that deep. It's okay,"
I was like,
and kept moving. I was like,
"What you mean it's not that deep?" At that point, I'm calling the police. She just slashed my hand. She assaulted me. I'm calling the cops.
and he just like keep moving. Like this was his mission, and the whole time everything was like turning up at this point in the movie. I was just like, y'all really could have just minded your business after a certain
Literally,
point.
after you fake exercised that man, y'all could have just. Oh, she showed up in my motel room. I don't know what's wrong with her. Anyway, I'm going back home. You did not
Right,
even.
like here's your daughter back, and I'm gone.
But he's like so intrigued and trying to be a good person that they keep making dumbass decisions. So eventually, like when Marcus sees Nell outside again, she's trying to attack him again, but now Lewis is pointing a gun at her, trying to shoot her. And she's just like yelling, kill me, blah, 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 because whether it's a demon or not, at this point, they probably both want to die. So to get Lewis to stop, to not kill Nell, he's like, okay, I'll do the exorcism. Like, please do not kill him. During the exorcism, Abalon, quote unquote, agrees to release Nell only if Marcus can remain silent for 10 seconds.
Bro, this part made me so mad.
I was like, what the fuck?
Because I'm like, first of all, in the time it took her to break those 3 fingers, 10 seconds had already passed.
Right. I was like
already. So then it should have been over after that.
Yeah.
But no, if you were gonna count to 10, that's not 10 seconds.
Yeah. Within those 10 seconds, basically, Nell was like breaking her fingers, and Marcus was supposed to stay quiet, but obviously he couldn't because he's just like, you're like, this demon is killing her, or she's killing herself. He yells, stop, and Ebelam like is like mocking him at this point, and then she asked him if he wants a blowing job, and then he's like, wait, what? Like, he like freezes because he's like, anybody who's actually had sex knows that it's not called a blowing job. It's a blow job. So that's Nell. And she's like, huh? What? No. What are you talking about? I just misspoke. I meant blowjob. No, she didn't say that. But like, she looked super confused. And then he realizes, like, you know, if you were an actual demon or knew about sex and wasn't super innocent like Nell, you would know it's called a blowjob, not a blowing job. So he concludes that she's not really possessed, but a disturbed and ashamed girl from being pregnant. So she starts crying, and eventually, like, her and Lewis have like her and Marcus have a talk, and she tells Marcus that this boy named Logan impregnated her. But Lewis rejects that. He's like, no, like, there's no way that she went and had sex somewhere. Like, they're always here. And also, he just thinks, like, his daughter is very innocent, so she would never do something like that. But Marcus is like, bro, you gotta face reality. Like, Nell probably had sex. And because it's not immaculate conception. Like, what else could happen? But, you know, they're trying to rule out demon possession. Eventually, like, Marcus and the crew go to meet Logan just to wrap up, like, their conclusion that Nell was never possessed. This is a farce, blah, blah, blah. But when they meet Logan, Logan is like, I'm gay. And the only contact that I ever had with Nell was literally a brief conversation at Joseph's house, which is the pastor, 6 months ago. He's like, I'm not her friend. I've never interacted with her like that. She's weird. I don't know her. So they're like confused, like, why would she lie about who impregnated her? But then they're like, wait, the common denominator here is Joseph Manley, the pastor. How do they both know him? That's weird. So they're like, no, we turned around. So they start driving back to the house. They also realized in that moment that Joseph was lying about not having seen Nell, because if that was 6 months ago and it was at Joseph's house, how did you see her if you haven't seen her in 3 years? So they return to the farmhouse, which they literally should have never done. I would have just minded my business.
But I was like, y'all were done. Y'all were on your way home. You were gone. You didn't have to stop, talk to Logan. You didn't have to do anything. You could have just left.
After they talked to Logan, I would have just called up Joseph, like, yo, bro, you was lying. Why you was lying like that?
Right, like, phones exist.
Right. But no, they wanted to go back there with the crazy demon-possessed bitch. So they find the house empty, but a twist. It's covered in occult symbols and, like, all over the place. Literally. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, shit. Then they start hearing voices from the woods. And like any stupid horror movie character, they go to the woods. So instead of calling the cops, they go to the woods. So the group follows the sound of voices into the woods, where they see a large fire and a congregation of hooded cultists led by Pastor Joseph Manley. Lewis is tied up, gagged, and blindfolded, while hooded figures pray around an altar atop which Nell is bound. She gives birth. I'm saying this so early because it's just such a crazy twist and ending that I'm like, she gives birth to an inhuman child, and Manly throws the child into the fire, yelling, "Hail Abalam." Everything that Marcus had said happened, except now cults are involved. So after he says "Hail Abalam" and the child is thrown in the fire like literally grows like 10, 20 feet high, and a demonic roar emanates from the fire. So at this point, Marcus's faith is restored because he's like, "Oh my god, if demons are real," he said it in the beginning of the movie. If you believe in God, you believe in demons. You believe in hell. And once he saw that demon, his faith was restored. He was like, "Oh my god, like I have to do something." Being the good Christian man that he is, bless his soul, he like goes up to the fire with his cross, trying to like exorcise the demon away. But obviously, it doesn't work because that demon is like extremely powerful now, getting his sacrifice that he wanted. He tries to combat it, but Iris and Daniel flee because they're the smart ones. They're like, "Fuck that." After they also tried to tell him multiple times, "Do not go over there," but he still went over there. And Iris is subdued by members of the congregation and killed with an axe. And then he run before Caleb decapitates him and the camera falls. They literally all died exactly how Nell drew her picture. Except for Marcus, which we don't know what happened to him.
The fire got him.
You think so? I was like,
He walked straight to it because he was trying to exorcise the demon or combat the demon. So he walked straight to the fire, holding up the crucifix,
but
and
remember,
the fire consumed him.
it never actually showed that he was consumed by the fire. It just showed that he had the cross up, and the other two's death was shown.
There was it was like a smaller picture, and it's just him laying down in the fire with the cross in his hand.
Oh, I thought it was like him in front of it.
There was one picture where it's just him and he's standing in front of the big flame, and then in the picture with everybody dismembered, he's at the top. It's like there's like a little fire or whatever at the top, and he's laying down in it.
Well, damn. R.I.P. Marcus.
Because I was trying to figure out like what the hell. Because I thought when I saw the picture of the cat, I thought the cat was gonna get like stabbed up, but instead she like just beat it with the camera.
Gotcha.
And I don't know why I paid attention to that. That's just what I do.
It was a good
But
movie.
I never been so mad in my life. That movie gave me a headache because of the stress. So many times they could have just went home,
Literally.
been about their business. They could have lived, and
Horror movies are
it,
so funny.
it just made me so mad. Like I was like, y'all were fine. Y'all could have just gone. You have a child, holy man or not. You have a child at home, and you should have been able to discern the situation. Like, damn, they really just upgraded this demon because now the fire's alive and he's giant. So me with my little fake smoky crucifix is not gonna cut it anymore. You need more. So
Yeah.
for him to just, oh my god, I see now, and walk right into his own death was just so dumb to me. I was so angered by it. And the fact that he just would not listen to anything ever. Every time they're like, Marcus, oh, don't do this, Marcus, he's gone. He's
Right.
going to do it.
Listening to himself. Like,
I'm like,
bring his dumbass intuition.
it's not just you. You got a sick son at home. You got hearing aids to pay for. You're not thinking about anything but yourself still.
Well, now he don't.
I
Sis gotta
can't.
at herself now because of his stupidity.
That just made me. It just made me so mad at the end of the movie because I'm like, I've seen a lot of movies that like that, like a lot of like B-rated horror movies where it's they do that. The whole what's the word? Estranged priest or whatever finds his faith again and thinks that he's strong enough to defeat this demon that's here. And I'm like, you just got your faith back. It's not even standing on two legs yet.
Right.
And you already running in.
First, you just on regular level right now.
Right. Like I feel like once you lose it, you gotta build it back up again. Like you gotta start from the beginning again. You're not up here anymore. You're down here. But golly. And then it just reminded me so much of well, that part kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you've ever seen Rosemary's Baby,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what that reminded me of. People all up in your business, 24/7. I hate it.
The moral of the story is mind your business.
Right. Exactly right.
So what would you give it? Scale of 1 to 10.
For me, I'd give it a 5. Because, to me, I didn't like Marcus that much because he kept giving off this, like, fake Ryan Reynolds vibe. And I was just like, you super sarcastic the whole movie. I can't take you seriously for anything. And I hated the son too, Caleb. He was super annoying. Just because like that plot is always in the movies that I've seen is always so like overdone, and to have it end that way like all of them do, I was just kind of like, really? So that'll get a 5 from me.
I always end up changing my rating. Before I was giving it a 7, but I think I'm gonna lower it only because like when I started talking about it again, like I had already noticed plot holes, but I noticed more the more I was talking about it, and I was just like, Like I liked all the characters for what they were. Like they did a good job in angering me. They did a good job in like being annoying as fucking doing dumb shit like horror movie characters do. But some of them had no depth, like Iris and Daniel. I really didn't know why they were so interested in Marcus's story, so I didn't
Right.
understand the purpose of it. Like as far as that, like they, I feel like my investment after a while, when as soon as she would have started acting crazy, I'd be like, I'm going home. Like I didn't,
Right.
but the twists were pretty good, and I did enjoy the ambiguity at the end. Like you don't know, like it did show if I didn't see it, but if it did show like him in the flame later, it was like we didn't really know necessarily if it happened or not. Like he could have technically still came out alive because we didn't see what happened to him. But
That's true.
and I think I also liked like even though this is like a repetitive thing about religion in horror movies, I still always appreciate the theme of like if you're corrupt, corruption is gonna happen. Because like yes, the Vatican is actually like full of terrible people. To be honest, there's a whole history behind it, but we're not gonna talk about it right now. But like if they're corrupt, like a whole bunch of like I don't know, getting arrested for like pedophilia and all of that stuff, like there's consequences to that stuff. So when you're sitting here mocking, like, even though it's your own religion, you're mocking it. You're mocking the religion, something that you believe in, but you're mocking it. Something bad is gonna happen to you, and that's the karmic lesson that was in that whole movie. Is like you are playing with fire by doing this. Like you think you're a hero, but you're really doing something that's really fucked up and messing with people's minds. So of course, something your karma was something bad was gonna happen to you. That was literally gonna make you realize, like, oh shit, I was doing something very bad, and look, now it's real.
Yeah.
There were so many holes. Like, how did they knew this specific group would come to them and stay to kill them the way that they did? Like, was Abalam psychic? Like, did he have like Christ-like powers? Was he omniscient? Like, I don't understand what extent his powers were, because it's like, how did you know that they were coming in the first place for you to have done all of this? Or was it just that Nell and them were going to do this anyway? Then,
Right.
which is what I got after a while, but I was still like, how did they know that they were going to kill them that way? Just out of pure intrigue? Like you knew like they were gonna be intrigued? Or was it like, no, I saw this coming? Then it was like, why was Caleb in on the cult? Like I know he lost his faith, but it's like I don't see why that was the extreme to which he went to the point where like he made his sister give birth to a demon. Like I'm confused. Like you let her get possessed. You didn't want any harm to come to her,
Yeah,
but
cause he yeah, and like at the beginning he was trying to put on this facade like he was this doting older brother and that he cared so much for her and didn't want any harm coming to her and all sort of stuff, but then you turn around and you're one of the cult members
yeah.
literally doing this evilness to her. Like that's why I said he's mad annoying because there was no family aspect from him. Like it was obvious he didn't like his dad, and
But then it
he
was like,
don't
why do you hate your dad so much? It's not like the dad had anything to do with the mom dying. You just hate
right,
him because he was the one alive. Like I'm confused.
right,
Then it was like it didn't make sense that Abalam ended up being the actual demon that was like possessing her because Marcus did that shit off of a whim. He opened the book to Abalam and was like, "Yep, this is the demon possessing you." It was all supposed to be a joke. So why at the end was Abalam the specific demon? Everything that he said was true. Are you trying to say Marcus is psychic in some way that he doesn't realize? Like I was confused by that. Like it was just too coincidental. It didn't make any sense. Um, but once you get past like I think the best part of it was when you couldn't really tell throughout the movie whether it was like something sinister within the family was going on or there was
yeah,
something actually spiritually going on because there were so many things like at one point you were like, okay, Caleb is the one doing all this serial killer shit, killing animals and stuff. Then it was like, no, now it just seems like something is wrong with Lewis, like he's abusing the fuck out of them. No, now Lewis is crazy. He might have impregnated his daughter. Like something is crazy going on. Then all of a sudden it became like, oh, it just so happened to be Nell was like sleeping with a boy. Then it was like, no, she's actually possessed. All of this stuff was actually happening. It's just like, oh shit. Like I appreciated every twist that came up until the end when everything just became too coincidental.
yeah. I actually would have preferred like when they thought that they had exorcised her the second time and like found out that she was faking or pretending to say things or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I actually would have been fine with that as the ending, like because that would have been a unique take on this kind of movie
Yeah.
because you don't really see that. Like it always ends in the culty stuff, like I said before. So to have that whereas you kind of like show that she just had a mental breakdown and everything it was like piling up on her after her mom passed or whatever, so she became this being that would have made for a much better ending, at least in
Yeah.
my opinion.
I mean, it wouldn't have been like a true horror movie, but
Yeah,
it would have made for a better ending because it's like nobody would have expected that. Nobody would have expected that she was just faking it the whole time. Honestly, they could have even went a little further and was like, okay, she wasn't possessed, but she still ended up killing somebody.
yeah,
Or she still ended up like killing herself or something like that. Like it still would have been a horror movie if they had ended that way. The whole cult
yeah.
was just like, all right, like
I'm sorry. Look, whenever they add in like cults or whatever, it's never scary to me. Or by the time they add it in, the movie is almost pretty much over. So I'm like, I can't get invested into it because it's just the last segment of the movie.
yeah, it's like it would have been way more interesting if during the entire movie they were like, is this a cult? Like, what is going on here? Like, these people are strange. Almost like the ritual. Like, I know that wasn't really necessarily a cult, but
Yeah.
it was cult like. And up until like we saw the monster in the movie, it was sort of like, yo, this is really weird. What's going on? Like, why is everybody acting so strange?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, crazy shit happened. But
Yeah.
I would have preferred that more if they had started that way. That whole like twist at the end, oh, it's a cult. Oh my god, is like, yeah, that's old news.
The only thing for me that really like got me was the sweet little old lady who was the church I guess receptionist or whatever.
Yeah.
I was so mad. I'm like, she's in on it too. She is there right at the front lines delivering the daggone baby, man.
Like, I'm being the movie. Ooh, I'm like,
I believed her. I believed in her.
you over here worshiping the devil. No, you ain't gonna be in no damn movie.
I felt so betrayed. I was like, how could you?
Bruh. But yeah, that movie was good up until like the very end. But yeah, I stand on my 6.
6. I didn't know that when it came out, it was considered a box office success.
They only had, but you know what? I'll give it praise for that too because they only had like a very small budget, and you could tell because they didn't use that many special effects at all. Not even many,
Yeah, they
many.
really didn't.
They really just used fire, and that was it. They didn't use
Hmm.
anything else. So they did that very well by making it like creepy and like suspenseful without doing too much. Because I really hate
Hmm.
scary movies that just use special effects left and right. That shit is not scary. Like it doesn't look real. But um, like they only had like a 1 point something $1 million budget and ended up making like what 18 something in the office in the box office.
They made like 67 million.
Oh, I'm thinking maybe that was the first week then. But yeah, they made a lot for the first month, something like that. I think I saw 18 million, 18 something before.
They made so much that they decided to make a sequel.
Also, look, maybe
That,
Marcus ain't dead.
that came out in 2013.
I might actually watch it. I kind of want to know what the fuck happened.
Honestly, I'm like I want to watch it because I kind of want to see because people don't die immediately in fire, so it's possible that he is still alive. Um, or if they're gonna do the BS where they decide they're going to use completely different characters but keep the same cult or keep the same demon or whatever.
Yeah, I would
So,
actually be interested. Only for that. But if I like in the first 10 minutes, like see some bullshit, I'm gonna be like, no.
because that's all I was seeing when I was like looking up the movie, just part two, and I was like, part two.
Jesus.
Gracious. You can't talk about exorcism movies without talking about the OG, the Exorcist movie, that apparently was just so, what's the word, shocking, that apparently they had to give people like bags in the theater to barf in or whatever.
Y'all dramatic.
Apparently, it was so unsettling that people were like fainting, vomiting,
They say that
crying.
every horror movie. They say that about Paranormal Activity. I watched it and I was laughing in the theater. Like,
Yo, that movie came out in 1973, and I saw the first one. It's boring. Like I can give it, its props for being the classic and being the one. But to me, that movie is so boring. But when they remade it, that was really good.
mm,
Then another movie that I'm always talking about, in The Conjuring, same kind of scenario with the exorcism, except Patrick Wilson's character was, what was it? He wasn't a disgraced priest. He was I think he just kind of like walked away from it, the priesthood, because of what he had seen or whatever in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and wasn't prepared to do that again. But then, of course, they're like, "Oh, you were the only one who can,"
Yeah,
and they and they and then he ended up being like strong enough to exorcise the witch or whatever that was possessing people. Blah, blah, blah. But exorcisms are like, at least in the Conjuring universe or whatever, like they were not even in there either, like in other movies I've seen, they always talk about how like difficult it is to perform exorcisms or get approved to perform an exorcism.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, you got to document, you got to send in video evidence, and it's got to be sent to the Vatican, and the Vatican has to approve it, and then they have to send somebody who is an approved exorcist to come and do the exorcism. But apparently that's not how it's done anymore, because they changed it in 1999, and it's now you just, it's whatever. The priest at any church or whatever can be like, I banish you, and boom, that's an exorcism apparently.
I'm like, see, I was full of shit this whole time.
And apparently the most recent exorcism that was performed was like last year in Portland after the riots.
What?
Apparently the Pope walked the streets or whatever where the riots happened, and he was performing an exorcism to expel the evil energy within the community.
Okay.
I was like, I mean, that's interesting because like a lot of the times I'm hearing like, oh, you know, and that exorcism hasn't been performed in over blah 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 years, but that was just a interesting little tidbit.
Mm-hmm. That's
That's
so. I guess saying an exorcism for that is the weird part to me because I thought exorcisms were just expelling like demons out of you. So when I hear like he's exercising the energy, I'm like, what?
It's crazy because a lot of, you know, they have to build up the scares. So a lot of movies, when they talk about exorcisms, it's always exorcising a demon. But apparently there are minor and major exorcisms. And
Mm,
the minor ones are like the ones you just talked about, where you can like bless the land or whatever where evil energy was. And you know how like when people move into a house and they want to exorcise the house or whatever, that's
mhm.
considered, I believe, a minor exorcism. And they walk around blessing things, and they have the sage or whatever, or the holy water, whatever they
Damn.
use.
I did not know that was an yeah, I just thought of it as cleansing, like, but interesante. I have like two stories because at first I was just gonna do one, but then I found another one that was like insane. So I'm gonna tell the insane one first, and then the other one is like it's not normal, but it's a little bit more like, oh my god, like wow. But this one is like, oh my god, like what the fuck?
Oh my.
So and they're not long, they're just I kind of typed long.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is just like in the theme of misdiagnosing demons as mental illness. And I feel like the two are so similar because some of that can be displayed as schizophrenia or psychosis or
Schizophrenia is scary.
yes. And like if you ever actually meet a schizophrenic person who's like off their meds, they literally see a lot. They see
Hmm.
demons, they hear shit, all of that. So it's very easy to misdiagnose schizophrenia as demon possession because all of the traits are so similar.
I think when in the 3 years that I worked at the hospital, I only ever worked with 2 schizophrenic patients, And both times I was afraid for my life.
Yes.
Because I was like, the energy is completely different. Like, oh, they're okay and they're talking to you, whatever, this and that. And then the switch happens. And all of a sudden, they're like, eyes are like shifting back and forth. And they're like looking around. And then they just say something crazy. And you're like, are you alright? Like, what the hell?
That shit is
It's,
scary.
it's scary.
I only been around and I think they were homeless or something, but they just kept saying I'm like they were talking to somebody, but they were whispering, and then they kept going like this, and I was like it just makes me go like, nah, what are you seeing? Because I want to be able to see it too. Because what the fuck?
Right.
So,
Let me turn on my vision. I want to see too.
because I would rather see it than just something invisible attacking me. So I started looking, and I was like, because she was like literally looking so adamantly like. And it's scaring me now. So then she just like starts cursing at whatever the fuck this thing is. And I'm like, this like I can laugh about it now because I was like I was so scared by it, but it's not funny. It's just like I was so terrified. I was terrified. I was like, yo, sis is like literally going off on something that is not there. And I'm just like, I cannot imagine how that starts off making somebody feel like, what's wrong with me? And then all of a sudden going to like, no, like, I don't care what the fuck you gotta say, something's right there. like, how did, oh God, I don't know what I would do. And then
I've
somebody to be off their meds from that, I can imagine like it's 10 times worse than somebody who is on it.
oh, I always feel so bad because I'm like, I can't help you. I can't help you.
I can't do a thing. You're gonna see stuff. You're gonna hear
I'm
stuff.
sorry.
But yeah, so just in the theme of that. But this story is set in Nicaragua. A young Nicaraguan woman, I said women, became mentally ill, and the pastor in her village decided to do an exorcism to expel her demons. Vilma Trujillo, I'll say her name is Trujillo. I hope I'm saying it right. Trujillo, maybe. Vilma
How's it
Trujillo.
spelled?
Trujillo.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So Vilma Trujillo was led out of the Celestial Vision Church, a dark wooden cabin where she had been held captive for almost a week and tied to a guava tree.
Oh my
The
gosh.
25-year-old had been taken there after starting to hallucinate and talk to herself. She was told it was for her own good. Only prayer could save her.
Oh my
Aunt
god.
Angela Garcia is quoted saying she was saying strange things. She told her sister she would not give birth to a baby but to a serpent. She was crying, falling to her knees, talking about the devil. I had never seen her like that before. But even that's the funny thing too. With schizophrenia, they mention the devil a lot because that's the only thing that they can associate with evil.
Mhm.
So it just automatically devil, demons. That's what they see. So that I had never seen her like that before. The family knew she needed help, but they also knew it would take half a day to reach a doctor in El Cortazal, which is mainly rainforest. Instead, they sent for a 23-year-old pastor named John, I want to say Rocha, from the evangelical church that Vilma had recently joined. He and his followers led her for an hour along muddy paths to the Celestial Vision Church at a lonely spot on the hillside. She was held there for
Mm.
days, deprived of food and water, as members of the church recited prayers. When her family tried to visit her, they were told she was not yet cured and turned away. So they literally couldn't even see Vilma. Mind you, she's going through this alone with strangers. Though Vilma had gone willingly, at one point she rebelled, grabbing a machete and swinging it through the air in an attempt to break free.
Oh
Obviously,
my gosh.
failed. But yeah. So they were turned away, couldn't see her. She tried to break free, failed. On the sixth night, one of the congregation claimed to have had a divine revelation. God had sent a message that the demons could be expelled through flames. You see where this is going? Juan Rocha began to direct the proceedings. Vilma was tied to the guava tree, where a pier was built beside her. It is unclear whether she was pushed into the fire or the flames engulfed her, but soon her skin was burning.
Oh my god.
She was crying out, "I'm going to die, I'm going to die," according to her 15-year-old sister, who was inside the church praying at the time.
Mm.
Listened as her elders said that Vilma would soon be resurrected and free from torment, so they did not put out the fire. Hours passed. Hours before one member of the group told the sister to run for help. Hours.
That's what I'm telling you. When you don't die immediately in fire, like they make you think on like movies and TV shows.
But you know what's
Because
crazy? I saw a picture of this woman. She was not like. Let me see if I can find it. She was not. She did not look like she had been burning. So I'm like, what the fuck had happened? Like, was the rest of her body burned? Like, her face didn't get burned yet? What happened? She's just in a hospital, but like, well, not in a hospital bed. She's getting whisked away in like a van to get to the hospital,
oh
but she's
my
covered or
god,
whatever, and part of her face looks like maybe something happened there, but she looks dead. She looks dead.
she doesn't look like she's been in fire though. To be honest,
Yeah. So I was like, why is
like
it still
it,
there?
to me, she didn't look like she was in fire at all.
Yeah. Which is kind of creepy because it's like, what happened? So it makes me think like maybe the rest of her body was burned and it
Yeah.
didn't get to her face. But it's like flames go fast. How did she not? I don't know. But
Hmm.
also they didn't cover her with anything that was flammable, they said. So she could have just
Oh.
burning slowly, which is even more
Yeah.
torturous.
Mhm.
So, a rescue party headed by Vilma's father, Catalino Lopez Trujillo, arrived at the scene at midday as the last flames were still flickering. Lopez Trujillo found his daughter lying naked on the ground. Oh, well, it answered this. With burns covering 80% of her body.
Okay.
80%. That means it could have been like up to here.
Yeah.
Barely conscious, she asked him for water. She still had enough strength to ask him for water.
Mm.
He and his nephew carried her back to Angela's house, which is I think the aunt. There, Vilma was still able to reassure her tearful 5-year-old son, the little pastor's baptized me. So she's like still thinking that she's possessed. Lopez Trujillo gathered various siblings, cousins, and uncles to create a makeshift stretcher from a hammock and 2 poles, which was the image there. Before dawn the next day, they set off, carrying her for 12 hours over land, wading through
Damn.
rivers and struggling not to slip on the steep, muddy paths through the rainforest to get her to this hospital. When they finally reached Rosita, the doctors realized her injuries were too serious to be treated locally. So she had to be taken about 30 kilometers, 20 miles away, and flown to the capital of Managua, but it was too late. He died on February 28th from pulmonary edema, her lungs filling with blood, and multiple organ failure.
Oh, I hate it.
Eventually, like this gained national news to the point where like a national outcry, like everybody was angry about it when they found out. It was
Yeah.
all over. So eventually, obviously reporters started coming there. So television footage captured the stunned pastor, Juan Rocha, sitting in the back of a pickup truck being grilled by a combative journalist. They were like, "Why'd you burn her?" And then eventually, like, Juan was taken by the police. But literally, he was getting harassed left and right. "Why'd you burn her? Why'd you burn her? Why'd you burn her?" And he kept saying, "No, no." The spirit lifted her up, and she fell into the fire. Like somehow she just fell into the fire. She was not put there. Yet, how was she tied to a tree?
Yo.
He just keeps trying to battle away every allegation, but then stupidly, somebody speaks up and there's a revealing interruption. One of his collaborators, his brother-in-law Franklin Harquin or Harkin, looks into the camera with an ice-cold stare and blurts out, she had committed an error. She had a life partner and she committed a mistake with another man. So they were burning her for cheating, not for an exorcism.
Oh my god.
Juan Rocha, his brother Pedro Jose, his sister Tomasa, and her husband Franklin Harkin were all charged with kidnapping and murder. So was a fifth participant, the one who claimed to have had a revelation about using fire, Esneda Orozco. When the case went to trial in Managua, those who attended said they saw no signs of remorse in the accused, and they were all in their 20s.
Oh my gosh.
On May 9th, the judge handed down sentences of between 30 and 36 years to each, saying they acted with treachery, viciousness, and abuse of confidence. And eventually, like, they said El Cortazal, which is where they lived, was torn apart by the crime. Vilma's partner, who was away at the time of her murder, had since gone to live elsewhere, taking their 2-year-old daughter with him. Her first son, by a previous partner who left her, is living with her brother. And Juan Rocha and his siblings have left their 10 children in the care of their elderly parents.
Damn.
Yeah. And they said today you can still see where the lavatory is, and they left the like burned rope and everything there. So it's like obvious that she was thrown into the fire and not lifted up by spirits, like you said, because the rope was burned.
Ugh. I hate it so much.
Terrible people.
Terrible.
All because it's like I'm not saying, oh, she just cheated, but that also doesn't warrant death. Like,
right. You don't deserve to die for making a mistake.
Didn't make any sense.
Whether you made it or not, because do we know if she made it, if she did that or not?
We don't even actually know if she cheated on him.
Ugh.
It's just rumor.
I hate it.
Yep.
Thanks, I hate it.
So then there's another one. Anna Elizabeth, who's normally called Annalise Mitchell, was born September 21st, 1952. She was a German woman who underwent 67 Catholic exorcism rites, 67, during the year before her death.
What was she doing? Damn.
She was diagnosed with epileptic psychosis and temporal lobe epilepsy and had a history of psychiatric treatment, which was overall just not effective. In
Clearly, goodness.
1970, when Mitchell was 16, she experienced a seizure and was diagnosed with psychosis caused by temporal lobe epilepsy. Shortly thereafter, she was diagnosed with depression and was treated by a psychiatric hospital. By 1973, she suffered from depression and began hallucinating while praying and complained about hearing voices telling her that she was damned and would rot in hell. Again, this sounds like fucking schizophrenia. But it's probably what they said, which was psychosis. But again, psychosis does stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Mitchell,
Psychosis sucks. Oh my gosh.
yeah. Actually, I don't know if this is Michael or Mitchell because she's German, so it probably is Michael, but I keep
It's
saying
probably like Michelle or something.
yeah, maybe. I'll say Annalise. Annalise's treatment in a psychiatric hospital did not improve her health, and her depression worsened. Long-term treatment did not help either, and she grew increasingly frustrated with the medical intervention, taking pharmacological drugs for 5 years. Annalise became intolerant of Christian sacred places and objects such as the crucifix over time.
Probably because it kept getting thrown at her every 5 seconds.
Literally. Oh, it's the devil. No, bitch. Not like
No, I'm just sick. Help me get better. Help me.
bruh. Annalise went to San Damiano with a family friend who regularly organized Christian pilgrimages. Her escort concluded that she was suffering from demonic possession because she was unable to walk past the crucifix and refused to drink the water of a Christian holy spring.
Oh my gosh.
So then, a minister named Father Alt said this. I guess like he was the family friend. Annalise told me, and Frau Hein confirmed this, that she was unable to enter the shrine. She approached it with the greatest hesitation, then said that the soil burned like fire and she simply could not stand it. She had to avert her glance from the picture of Christ in the chapel of the house. She made it several times to the garden, but could not get past it. She also noted that she could no longer look at medals or pictures of saints. They sparkled so immensely that she could not stand it. Now that does sound like you're possessed. But again, if she has psychosis, she could be imagining that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now all of a sudden I can't look at Christian symbols because y'all put it in my mind that I'm fucking possessed and not
Yeah,
just
because now she's just running with it at this point.
right. So by the time she was 20, she had become intolerant of various religious objects and began to hear voices. Her condition worsened despite medication, and she became suicidal, also displaying other symptoms for which she also took medication for. After taking those psychiatric medications for 5 years that failed to improve her symptoms, Annalise and her family became convinced she was possessed by a demon too. So then they were like, okay, now it's like really serious. Like he was right. We gotta go get this exorcised out of her. So they appealed to the Catholic Church for an exorcism. It was at first rejected, but after much hesitation, two priests got permission from the local bishop in 1975.
See?
Began conducting exorcism sessions, and the parents stopped consulting doctors like literally altogether. So now she's just off her meds.
Oh no.
So of course, she's probably seems like she's getting worse. Annalise began talking increasingly about dying to atone for the wayward youth of the day and the apostate priests of the modern church. She went off. She stopped eating food and died due to malnourishment and dehydration after 67 exorcism sessions.
Oh my god.
Eventually, Annalise's parents and the two Roman Catholic priests were found guilty of negligent homicide because they weren't fucking like, even though she couldn't eat, it's like you couldn't find ways to feed her. My God. So
Right, I still don't get that. Like, she's still a person. They still need,
them
whether
forcing,
you think whatever you think is in her or not. Like, she still needs to eat.
I'm putting the IV in your veins, hooking up a tube for applesauce to go through your fucking veins or something.
Right.
So eventually, Annalise's parents and the two Roman Catholic priests were found. Oh, like I said, found guilty of negligent homicide and were sentenced to 6 months in jail.
Ugh.
Also received a fine, but their sentence was reduced to 3 years of probation, so they never actually got jail.
Of course not.
In 1976, the state charged Annalise's parents and priests Ernst Alt and Arnold Renz, those were the two priests, with
Hmm.
negligent homicide and drew intense interest. Before the court, doctors testified that Annalise was not possessed, stating that this was a psychological effect because of her strict religious upbringing and her epilepsy. But the doctor, Richard Roth, who was asked for medical help by Alt, allegedly told her during the exorcism that there is no injection against the devil, Annalise. Schmidt Leichner, which was the parents' lawyer, said that the exorcism was legal and that the German constitution protected citizens in the unrestricted exercise of their religious beliefs. So that's probably why. That's what I meant to say. That's probably why they ended up getting fined instead of
Yeah.
jailed. The defense played tapes recorded at the exorcism session, sometimes featuring what was claimed to be demons arguing, to assert she was possessed. But again, falsify recording tapes. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be her voice. Both priests said the demons identified themselves as Lucifer, Cain, Judas Iscariot, Belial, Legion, Hitler, and Nero, among others. I don't know why people always say Hitler is a fucking demon. Like, that man was a human man. He was just evil.
Mm-mm-mm.
Are they asserting that people can become demons in the afterlife if they're evil enough? Like, I don't know how this works.
Right. Where's the rule book?
Bruh. They further said that she was finally freed because of the exorcism just before her death. Okay.
Sure.
The
Sure.
bishop, he was not aware, the one that granted the two priests to do the exorcism, was not aware of her alarming health condition when he approved of the exorcism and did not testify. So it's like, he didn't know. I feel like if he knew, he would have just said, "Nah, y'all can't do that." Because what if it's mental health? What if that's what happened? And they're just
But
like,
it's like if you're taking on a case about somebody, like, wouldn't you go through the necessary procedure to like know about them and know what they do and like to know the person you're performing on like
something,
at all?
bruh. So, of course, you probably already realized, but several films are based on her story. Among them, the 2005 film "The Exorcism of Emily Rose"
Mm-hmm.
and the award-winning 2006 film "Requiem," as well as the 2011 film "Annalise: The Exorcist Tapes." I've never seen that one, but I've heard of Requiem and I saw The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which was okay.
Yeah, it was alright. I think I saw that one about Annalise.
Yeah, I kind of want to watch Requiem because it's award winning, so I might watch that. Because Exorcism of Emily Rose, it was just like they dragged it for so long in one room that I was like, I'm not scared by this. Like I'm
Yeah,
just watching an exorcism.
it's hard with the exorcism movies because it's easy to lose the scare. I
Yeah,
think because it's like, oh, she's got a demon in her, and then it's like, ugh, are they ever gonna get it out?
yeah,
And like you kind of know that if you watch a lot of them, you kind of anticipate the ending before it even happens.
yeah,
And when it's looking like, or this is what's gonna be the ending, then it's not really enjoyable to watch.
yeah. And they end up repeating the same stuff. Like the girl is walking through the hall. She's being weird. Ooh, we got her talking in Latin on tape. We got her like talking disembodied voice in the room. Like those are all repetitive tropes of the exorcism type of movies. I
Yeah.
somebody else to create a different type of exorcism movie.
What movie was it? The Possession. That movie was pretty good when it came out. I can't remember what year, but it was basically the little girl got possessed by the demon inside of this little jewelry box that her parents got for her at somebody's yard sale. I'm hoping that's that movie. And it was the first time I was introduced to like a Jewish demon or whatever. It was called the Dybbuk or something like that.
I'm really interested in stories about Dybbuk's because every time I hear stories about it, I'm like, this sounds way worse than just like a regular demon.
Yeah, it's like the Jewish one and the Middle Eastern one. Yeah, almost done. The Middle Eastern one is called a what is I know it's like on the tip of my tongue.
A jinn?
Jinn, yes, 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 yes. A jinn.
Yeah, I have read about those too. I had tried to write a story about one, but I was like, maybe I could just make it a demon instead of a jinn. Like, I don't know why I specifically tried to make it a jinn. I was like, I don't.
I mean, they're very similar. They're very similar.
Yeah, I think I was trying to do it because I was like, I kept reading about certain jinns like have different things that they do to torture people. So some jinns will like torture you through your dreams, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna use that because I have a thing with dreams. But then I was like, well, I can just make a dream demon. It doesn't have to like follow rules.
It's,
Yeah.
a lot of them don't like. I mean, a lot of them do similar things, but because I watch a lot of the urban exploration videos,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people, they do like haunted houses or like abandoned houses or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of like channels are like these Middle Eastern guys who do those things, who explore abandoned houses of like people who either died in them or like people who were murdered, uh, or just like any kind of haunted building or whatever. And they're like, to get views or whatever, they go at night. There's just a lot of crazy stuff happens, but to me, it looks like, a classic like poltergeist or some sort, or
Yeah,
like just them seeing like apparitions in like the windows and stuff, or like hearing somebody screaming even though nobody's there.
yeah, man.
There was one video actually where the guy was like looking in the mirror in the abandoned house, and he actually saw like the face of a ghost or whatever like peer out from like behind his head, like over
Oh,
here. And you could see it so clearly in the camera before he like whips around to see if somebody's behind him. And I honestly, that was amazing. If it was fake, that was amazing.
yeah. I would be like, oh shit. Even if it was fake, I'd still be impressed by like how'd you do that? Like,
Right. And sometimes I'm like, some of these things, I don't think these people can fake, because a lot of them do it over like live stream. They live stream themselves doing these things. And I'm like, we haven't gotten this far with technology yet where we can do these special effects during an actual live stream.
yeah,
At least I don't think so.
no,
So some stuff I tend to believe. And I think that's why people do them over live streams, because more validity to them, and having people watch, I guess, kind of gives you like witnesses.
yeah. You're like, I can't fake this. I didn't edit anything because I'm on live. So,
Hmm.
okay. Random fun fact about that story I just told about Annalise, though. On June 6, 2013, a fire broke out in the house where they lived. And although the local police said it was a case of arson, some locals attributed it to the exorcism case because it was just like they never found anybody connected to it.
It's just a random fire.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Kind of makes you go like, was she
Well,
possessed?
that.
I was like, that's kind of weird that a fire broke out, especially like after they were like, oh, she's possessed. And it's like, did, did pranksters do this? Or like, was she?
Right.
I'm most likely thinking that she really had psychosis.
Yeah. Psychosis is really crazy. Having to like deal with patients who had it,
Hmm.
there's really nothing you can tell them, especially when they're not like on proper medication or whatever. Or sometimes their psychosis medication is combating another medication that they're taking, so it kind of like makes it worse, or like defeats the purpose of the other medication.
Yeah.
It's too much.
That's it for us, guys. Make sure to leave it. Sorry, guys. I'm recording at my boyfriend's house, and he just walked in and is now trying to make noise. What?
Make a noise in my house.
Oh, but you
Ooh.
recorded. Anywho, back to the show. That's it for us, guys. Make sure to leave us a review wherever you listen, and don't forget to follow us on all the things, which will be listed in our show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to subscribe to our Patreon so you can get special perks and extra bonus content from us at patreon.com/podcast. Well, if I could just say something about the content, you'd probably get our video. That would be good. So yeah, if you want to watch us and watch our bloopers and us acting stupid and me staring at my boyfriend being annoying, then
And me touching my face for like the 50 millionth time.
then yeah, go on patreon.com/podcast. So remember to stay safe.
Stay indoors And don't leave your foot off the bed.
You sound so sure.